So hello everyone, I'm going to show you how to repot tomato seedlings. So what I have here is a few tomato seedlings, and I planted them about a month ago. Yes, about a month ago in February, and I put maybe 2 or 3 seeds in each pot. So you can see that there are actually 2 or 3 seedlings in each. So now I would like to, so that because what they're growing, they need more space, so I would like to give them a bit more space. And I've got these 2 pots filled with soil, and I'm going to separate those seedlings and put each of them in their own pot. So you have to be quite gentle. Just checking to see that the camera is still rolling. So you have to be quite gentle. You want to push the earth from below, and you don't want to grab seedlings by the stem. This is a very sensitive area. You really want to keep that clear of your fingers. So you really want to take them by their roots, actually. So try and kind of like grab them from underneath. There we go. So I've got 2 seedlings here. What I want to do is I want to gently separate them, and I do that sort of, I just kind of break them off gently. Make sure that you don't damage too much roots. Always hold your seedlings by the roots, never by the stem. Okay, so I'm going to put one of them away for now. Another thing, you always want to have moist soil around the roots as well. So make sure you water your pots, your seedlings, before you start replanting them. And now what I do is I just want to make a little kind of a hole. This is also watered, so it's very wet. So I'm making like a kind of a hole, like this deep. And the reason I'm making such a deep hole is actually because I'm going to plant my seedling quite deep. I'm not going to plant it only up to its roots. I'm actually going to put it very, very deeply, probably up to here. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I wanted to develop a bigger root system. There we go. Okay, it didn't quite go as deep as I wanted to, but it's okay. And I'll just cover it with more soil. And there we go. Got a seedling in an individual pot. And I always want to label them as well, because as time passes you will not remember which seedling is which. At the moment I have about 6 different varieties of tomato, and this is one that's called Garbaggio Negro. And oh yes, here we've got a date here. So I sowed seeds on the 15th of February 2019, and now today's 15th of March, so a month later I'm reporting them, or what some people call is potting them on. But I mean, vocabulary is not really that important, to be honest, in gardening. Just get on with it, really. So now I want to do the same thing with my other seedling, this one here. So again, I'm going to make a deep hole. Again, this soil here is moist. It's not as moist as probably should be, but it's okay. Don't be afraid to do things differently from what you've read somewhere. What I've discovered with gardening is that it's usually going to be okay. Okay, it's very hard to actually kill something, because all the plants have innate desire to survive, and they actually like really you know, you really have to try to kill them before they die. Now, another thing I wanted to mention is the reason I'm using quite small pots and I'm not just putting them in a pot which is maybe this size, is because tomatoes benefit from being restricted. I want these tomato seedlings to develop really, really good roots, quite strong and elaborate root system. And I will only, after I've put them in this pot, I will only repot them in a bigger pot once I see roots coming through. And it's really amazing actually, like about a month from now, I will be able to see all this little bit of white roots coming through the holes here, and I will know that I need to pot them on to a bigger pot now. So there we go. Got tomato here. I mean, I'm just gently touching the stem. I'm really not grabbing the tomato seedling by the stem. Perfect. Now we've got 2. Let's do those 3 ones. Now I have more pots here. And it's good to do, sort of in gardening actually, everything is to do with timing. You know, you've got to really do things on time. That's the only thing I would advise. So tomatoes have a really, like in Ireland, tomatoes have a very long growing season, so they take a long time to mature, to develop from seeds to seedlings. So you want to kind of start sowing them in February, but it's still not too late now really. But then timing is important when you're going to repot them. So if I wait any longer, the roots will develop too much, and then tomato seedlings will have entangled each other. See, right now it's very easy for me to separate them, but if I wait another couple of weeks, the roots will get all tangled together, and then it will be really hard to separate them, and they might actually break, which will be a problem. So, of course, another pot here. Make a little hole. It's really nice and wet, and pop the tomato there. There we go. Another one done. And at this stage, tomatoes still need a lot of warmth. You shouldn't really leave them outside. They need to be somewhere where it's quite warm. They're still you can see that they're still quite fragile, and any frost would just kill them off. And I know this from my own experience, because in fact last year I killed quite a few tomato plants by leaving them in the polytunnel in here, and it was just too cold for them, and I just forgot, to be honest. So that finished them off in just one night, you know. So like all this work and all this like love and attention you're giving them, you know, you don't wanna really mess something up like that. So, and I'm not like packing the soil. You can see that I'm not packing it. I'm just kind of putting it loosely around the stem. And the reason I'm burying them so deep, I don't know if everybody does it, but it's just how I learned it and how my granny and my parents always planted tomatoes, is that the roots will start developing from there. So she will have a much bigger root system if I bury her deeper. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but it's always worked for me. So I've got another seedling here. Now I've got 2 more pots. And it's really fun actually to do this, you know. I really like to kind of, I really enjoy interacting with soil, and it's brilliant. I think it's very relaxing. It's very seasonal. It feels like, you know, spring is here and things are growing. And ooh, this one is a bit of a, there we go. I've been reusing the pots every year, so then they're a bit tough to sometimes to actually use. Now, make a hole. And it's amazing how fast they will grow now. In a few days they'll just get much bigger. And I know this because, yeah, that's what I do every year, and I repot them, and there they go. Okay, and the last one. Nice hole there. Actually gonna make it a bit deeper. The seedling goes in. I try and avoid touching it, just the leaves, but not the stem. There we go. And what I can do now is I can use the soil. I don't waste anything. By the way, it's just this is just normal compost. There's nothing fancy about it. It's just a standard compost, kind of potting compost. And I just use this soil to add it around plants. There we go. It's not rocket science. If you've never grown tomatoes, that's fine. I did not know how to do this a few years ago, and I just tried to do it. And yes, sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes you get blight and all those things, but I would say probably, yeah, something will grow, you know. And tomato seeds you buy in the shops these days, they're very hardy. They're bred and selected for their sort of great survival, so be fine. And there's a particular tomato I really like, and I have it here. This one is called Sun Gold, and I don't need to repot them because, well, maybe there's one, yeah, there's actually one seed per pot, except for one of them. So the Sun Gold is really amazing. It's a very hardy tomato, and you can see it's very beautiful. It's a small cherry tomato. It's the fruits are kind of yellow orange, and they taste amazing. They like sweets. You can actually put them on the cake. So now I have a few others. I might make some labels first. I'm just using these plastic labels from a shop, a garden shop. So I'm writing the variety and the date. And I really recommend keeping a calendar as well if you're doing any gardening. I didn't do it for many years, but I just started doing it now because just like in your Google Calendar or whatever calendar you use, just to kind of mark when you sowed things and when you repotted them and when you planted them out. And that's because when you planning your garden the following year, it's always useful to know what happened when the previous year. And I have to say it's also very useful because you can also observe how maybe the temperatures are changing. You might even see climate change happening right in front of your eyes, really. I certainly do here in the west of Ireland. Our wild garlic is much earlier this year than it's ever been. Okay. So, got this lovely tomatoes here. Now I'm going to do the same thing with a few others. Okay, so now we've got this. Okay, that's another garbaggio. So I might leave it for now, but I'm going to use this one, Caro Rich, or Caro Rich, or Caro Rich. So this one is a really fantastic tomato. Just want to make sure, yes, you can see it. So this tomato is, I didn't actually say Garbaggio Negro comes from the Seed Savers in Ireland, and I bought it last year, so it's actually the same seeds I'm using from the year before. And that tomato is really beautiful. It's quite small and quite dark. It's got quite tough skin, so it's perfect for sauces. But actually we've had it in all different salads as well. It's really good. It looks actually kind of like, it goes from green to dark red to purple and then to black. And this one is absolutely amazing. It's an kind of orangey yellow. It reaches this beautiful yellow size, and it's about this big actually, and it's full of carotene. It really tastes really good. I like to grow several varieties because I like to mix them up in my salads. I really like tomatoes, as you can see. I've got so much, but I'm also planning to give them away actually. So this one is a bit of a toughie. So you see I'm kind of pushing this block from underneath like this. It's a bit easier actually with this one than the one I had before. And because the roots are not so shallow, it's actually okay. They're practically kind of like falling out. So I'm just gonna grab this one from below. Thought there was a white fly on it. Got suddenly a bit of a panic. So again, I'm gonna make a nice deep hole for this tomato to go in my nicely moist compost. Put this in, put compost around it, just tap a little bit, but not too tight, not too tight. Don't like sort of compress it down, you know, let it have some air around its roots. Very good. Now I need to make more pots. I might use one of those. All I want to do is just separate all the tomatoes so they each have an individual pot to grow. I don't really worry so much about, I just almost killed this poor little seedling. You hear me telling you how to do it and then I'm just killing things in front of your eyes. That's what happens. Okay, so I'm going to go and get some more soil in this small pot. And meanwhile, just enjoy some tomatoes. Magic. So I've got some soil here, and I want to, because you see it's very dry now, so I want to make sure that it's very, very wet. So I'm going to water it, kind of flood it completely with water. And there we go. You can enjoy tomatoes while I'm doing this. We had a really terrible flood. Well, I had a terrible flood in my polytunnel. It was raining last night so much that when I came into my polytunnel in the morning, there was about 30 centimeters of water. It was really awful. I had to dig a kind of a trench to drain all the water. I've never had so much rain before here. Okay, here we go, nice and moist. So again, this lovely, lovely soil. I just think it's so magic that you've got a seed, you've got some soil and some water, and it just grows. For me, it's just always magical. Like this is why I love gardening so much. Okay. Here we go. Cover it up. Might use a bit more. Okay. Now these ones. See how beautiful they are, 3 of them. You can maybe see the beautiful stems as well. Gorgeous. I hope the video quality is okay. I'm filming this by myself. I have a tripod here. It's not exactly a pro. And I'm just gonna kind of put my finger in and lift them up, because like I said, the roots are still quite shallow, they're very small. So that's it, there we go. Beautiful. Look at them. And they separate them very easily. I'll just leave them alone for now. This guy can probably stay in this little pot. I'm gonna leave him here. So I'm gonna plant this guy or girl. Let's not have preferences here. This is a gender neutral space. Yeah, there we go. Nice army of seedlings. So now I'm gonna make my labels again. Clean hands. So I'm gonna label them each because they all grow at different times. You see, like these tomatoes here, they all are different sizes, and I want to make sure that I know which ones are which. So you can get labels from a garden center, but you can also make your own, and I'll show you the ones I made before. So I used, I made this label myself. I used plastic milk bottle. I just cut them up and just made a little arrow shaped, and then yeah, you can just use that. You know, it doesn't gardening doesn't have to cost very much at all. Like, you don't have to get all this like fancy equipment and special gloves and, you know, special tools. Obviously having nice tools is nice, especially if you're going to be trimming and pruning apple trees. You probably would want to have some special tools, but you don't need to have, you don't even need to have any pots like this. You can, you know, you can start your seedlings in something like this, and this works really well for peas, for example. Actually for any seeds really. So yeah, I use them as well. And or you can just use like yogurt pots. Just see what you have in your kitchen, in your recycling bin. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so now we've got a couple of these guys here. I want to separate them as well. Just gonna go and get some more soil. The cockerel. My chickens are really excited today because it feels like spring. I've got, at the moment I only have 5 chickens and 1 cockerel. Ooh, sounds like there's some kind of spring action happening. Yeah, the cockerel is pretty mean, I have to say. He's okay with chickens, but with hens, but he's not very nice to me. I always have to be very careful when I'm feeding them, and keep an eye on my back because he just tends to attack my feet. When I got him, he was so sweet. I'm just gonna put my finger in and gently lift them. There we go. Oh, they smell so good. They already smell like tomatoes. If you run your finger sort of really gently on the stem, just very gently, and then smell it, you will smell this delicious, delicious tomato smell. I actually don't buy tomatoes now. I haven't bought any tomatoes since December, since tomatoes finished growing in my polytunnel. I just can't eat shop bought tomatoes anymore. It's just, but also it feels kind of ridiculous to be buying something that isn't in season in Ireland, you know. Since I started gardening here, I know not everybody has a garden, but I really still think that most of us should try and eat more seasonally and not buy food that comes from so far away, and all these greenhouse gases that food industry produces. It's a lot to do with our choices, you know. To have strawberries in December or like January is just ridiculous, I think. And you know, like I always say it, but it's true, like growing some vegetables even in a cold climate like Ireland is still possible. You can, and you don't need that much space, you know. Even if you have a tiny lawn outside your house, you know, you can just throw a bag of compost, scatter some seeds in spring and just see what comes up, you know. You might be able to eat some delicious veggies, you know, at least salads. Some things are so expensive, like if you buy salads in the shop, they usually come in this horrible plastic bags. They're pre-washed, probably full of chlorine and God knows what. I mean, I'm not trying to preach here, I'm not, you know, whatever, like, just do what feels what you like, but I think you will notice the difference if you start buying seasonal veggies or growing some of them yourself. Okay, now I've got this 2 more to separate. Some of them, they don't look so kind of excited, those tomatoes. They look a bit tame. So I don't know. Maybe they're not well. So this Cherokee tomato that I'm reporting now, this is another variety from Seed Savers, and it's an heirloom variety of tomatoes, and they are really amazing. They grow till about this size, and they kind of turn purple, dark, black, and they're like kind of beef steak tomatoes that you can slice thinly and have like a chunk of mozzarella on top with some basil and olive oil and balsamic vinegar, and they just taste absolutely divine. You will never ever would want to buy more tomatoes from a shop, I swear. Still running. Okay, I'm gonna actually leave this one in. This guy can have its own little pot now. And this one we're going to put in here. Maybe a bit deeper. There we go. I think I'm almost done. Just gonna put some labels again. And yeah, if you end up sowing some tomato seeds, let me know how it goes. I'll quickly actually show you how to sow tomato seeds. It's very simple. Now we have what here? It's a Cherokee. Now I buy most of my seeds from Seed Savers, and Seed Savers Association in Ireland is really amazing. They preserve all these really rare varieties of seeds, and a lot of them are heirloom variety, and you can also save them. Now I'm making this video and my camera keeps dying, so that's why I keep stopping it. But you know, I'm making this video of how how I go about, you know, growing my plants, my tomatoes. But you know, you don't have to follow it. You can find another video online and try it out, and you can buy yourself a book and read it. It's up to you. You know, there's so many different ways of growing things. I feel like there are just as many opinions about how to grow stuff as gardeners in the world. And this is just what works for me, but I just wanted to show you that it's actually not that difficult when it comes to, you know, there's some things you need to do, and you really need to make sure that you do it on time, but time is all you have to give to, and a bit of love to your plants. So I'm going to just go back to this lovely one, and I'm going to repot them. See this lovely lovely root. Every year I promise myself I'm going to have fewer plants, and every year I end up growing more, actually. Just remarkable. Okay, so now I have separated all my tomatoes, and they each have an individual pot. You can see that they all have beautiful pot to grow in, all individual. And what I want to do is, well, actually not all of them, I need to still do a few others. Okay, so here I've got another variety, and this one is called Pollen, and it's an heirloom variety from Poland. It's quite a small tomato. You can actually see like the size of the plant is very small, so that sort of tells you that they're probably cherry tomatoes. So they're very small yellow tomatoes, and they grow like almost like grapes on the vine, and they need support. Like all these tomatoes will need support, and I will show you maybe later when I'm, in a few months when I'm actually potting them on and putting them into my raised beds. I will show you how I'm supporting them. These varieties, the Cherokee and Karo Rish, actually they need a lot of support, and because the tomatoes themselves are very big. But Pollen, this is one variety you can grow in a pot, and I'll show you how big the pot should be. So about this size. I'm not saying that you should have your tomato, you shouldn't put this tiny seedling into this pot straight away, but this is the size of pot you will be aiming for at the end, when your plant is about this big. And if you don't have a polytunnel and only have a small space on your balcony, and it's a sunny balcony, then you can grow it in pot. So now I always find it very hard to kill some of my seedlings, so you see like I've got so many here, and I just know I'm not going to grow that many tomatoes. But for some reason, once they've like this size, I can't possibly kill them. So I'm going to get some more pots. go. I've got slightly smaller pots for the smaller tomatoes, so I'm going to water them again. I hope you're enjoying the sound of the rain outside. Okay, first lovely pot. Right, let's see. Ooh, it's starting to rain, really starting to rain. See, this one really comes off easily. Ooh. With this guy. And put him back. There we go. Now, these two are really together, so I have to separate them. So just gently, what you do is you just gently shake them. Just gently shake them. Shake the roots until they separate naturally. Don't try and pull them apart, because then you actually break the root system. Come on, little tomato plant. Oh, disaster! It's actually okay. Again, we've got two together, so I'm just going to try and gently. Yep, came out. And like you see, sometimes I do touch the stem, but I'm doing it so lightly. I just don't apply any pressure whatsoever. Tomatoes have this like tiny hair. I'll just see if I can get this in the camera. I don't know. Probably can't see it. Anyway, you can't see it. So this tiny hair on the stem, and you really don't want to damage them. This one is tiny, look at it. this one out. So if I do it from below, you see, like, I guess the trick is to make sure that you lift the tomato plant from below. There we go. It's a whole army of tomatoes. Now, mix also the pot. Sometimes you don't want to come separate, so I just kind of like gently take them and kind of try and use my fingers. Yep, there we go. Okay, now I'm going to make some labels again. Trying to totally destroy my tomatoes. So this one is the Sun Gold, the one I was telling you about. The Sun Gold is really amazing, and you know, this variety is, I have grown it outside in Ireland in a quite high altitude, and well, I mean, not like, obviously not the Alps, but significantly colder sort of than Cork, you know, in a pot, and they did really well. And because they're quite small cherry tomatoes, they're really hardy, very hard to kill them. So, you know, if you're thinking of starting growing tomatoes and you only have a pot, a big pot, and a sunny balcony or a small, you know, bit of sunny wall somewhere, I would say start with Sun Gold. Very easy to grow. And also just so delicious. And they grew all the way into December. Early December we were still collecting tomatoes. Amazing. The weather in Ireland just changes every 5 minutes. Well, actually more frequently than that. I might actually take some soil out of this one. Here we go. I'm gonna make some labels for this tomato because I don't want to get confused. Sun Gold. So, there we go. All the tomatoes are done. And so all the seedlings have to be kept warm. Unfortunately, I mean, this is actually kind of the problem in a way with sowing tomatoes so early, is that it's still cold to leave them in the polytunnel overnight, so I'm going to have to take them inside and put them on the windowsill somewhere. Yeah, so you need quite a lot of windowsill space or a table somewhere, and then I'll bring them out tomorrow in the morning again. Now I want to show you quickly how to sow tomato seeds. I don't actually have any tomato seeds here, but I have something else. I brought a sunflower seed. Okay, tomato seeds are much smaller. They're tiny, tiny. And I wish I could find, yeah, I would have to go back to my house to get them. So, tomato seeds, the best thing to do is, we start with a pot full of compost, small pot, about this size or this size. You make an, you water it well, and then what I do is I actually sow 2 or 3 tomato seeds into one pot at the beginning. As you can see, these seedlings all started with 2 or 3 seedlings per pot. And then I kind of shake the ground a bit to make it look a bit like that. Okay? What you do then is you put your seeds on a cardboard like this, and they line up in a nice line. And then you just tap gently, and the seed, one seed will fall. Let it just fall anywhere, and then you can tap gently and another seed will fall in another place, and then you tap gently and another seed will fall. So you don't want to bury them, you don't want to tap the ground. Take a little bit of moist compost and scatter it around the seed just to cover them, like this. Make sure that the compost is super moist. It has to be almost dripping with water, and I mean the compost inside this pot and the compost you're going to be putting on top. Okay, like this. And there we go, and just put a label in. And what I also do is, because I don't have a propagator, you can buy this like specially heated propagators, I don't have one, so what I do is I just cover this pot in cling film, and that's it, and just put it somewhere in the house in a warm spot and just wait to see. And it's amazing, literally in a week you will see a tiny little stem appearing, and then when that happens you want to remove cling film and let the plant breathe, basically. And that's it. And then in a few weeks time you've got something like this. It's quite amazing, it's a miracle, really. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, let me know. And if you have any suggestions, or I don't know, whatever, if you have any comments, get in touch. And you can get in touch with me via my website, www.seanboher.com, and you probably find it in the notes below. Yep. And I'll just quickly show you my polytunnel. It's got quite a few things growing here, and all this stuff actually grew over winter, so you can see how having a polytunnel really extends your growing season. So I've got salads and herbs and turnips, and far away I've got like pak choy and kale, and you see kale is actually sprouting and bolting now because it's just too warm in the polytunnel. Yeah, so, and there's I'll show you the flood. The water is running. Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, thanks very much, and yeah, speak to you soon.